All right, you're live. Oh.
Welcome, Lydia. I'm Sister Maria Benedetta, and I was actually a freshman here over 20 years ago. And so I'm seeing some familiar faces, but I just wanted to thank Father Ben and everyone that has given me such a warm welcome here. And I've actually stayed here with family doing some documents for our visa because I've been living in Italy for the last 8 years. And I just wanted to share with some of you how God's worked in my life and everything. And so I guess I'll start with, I was born in California and I lived there for only 5 years. We moved immediately after to Arkansas, and I lived here for about 8 years. And during that time I was here in the parish, and then 9 years I lived in Texas. And I just want to say that I was blessed to grow up in a very Catholic family. And as some of you may know, my mom is Dorothy, and I was just really blessed to have her presence in my life because it was actually her taking me to daily mass and adoration that I was exposed to Jesus from a young age, some hours in front of him, and also praying the rosary every day as part of our family tradition. And so I would say that having Jesus' presence and Marie's presence in my life from a young age just started sowing the seeds in my heart. And one of the shows that my mom used to watch on EWTN was Mother Angelica, and when I would watch her, I wanted to be just like her. She was a four-player nun, and she had like this television series on EWTN. I'm sure some of you have heard of her, but I had this devotion to St. Clare Assisi when I was young, and she was like my first favorite saint. And just hearing her story that during the night she escaped from her rich household. She was a normal woman, and she escaped, and she went, and St. Francis carried her, and she consecrated her life to God. And just through St. Francis's preaching, she just wanted to give her life to Jesus, and I wanted to do the same thing as her. And as I continued growing and everything, I started discerning actively when I was 16, but by that time I was in Texas, and I had the help of spiritual directors that recommended some orders to me. I found out about certain orders only through the internet because it's kind of hard to find sisters around here. But when I started discerning, I also had experience of staying with some Benedictines and just discerning where God may be calling me and what spirituality, because I had no idea what God may be calling me to. And I also had the grace to be really involved with the youth group there, and the youth ministers were actually very devout Catholics. And so while they were having a young family at the same time, they would just share their faith with us, youth at every meeting. And so they weren't afraid to talk about the lives of the saints and the fathers of the church. And also they gave us many opportunities to do retreats and Eucharistic adoration with all the fun and music with that as the youth. And they also organized retreats to go to the March for Life, pilgrimages there. And so I also got really involved with the Youth for Life movement, and little by little I started counseling women in crisis pregnancies just outside the clinics. And if some of you have 40 Days for Life, we were out there praying the rosary and just being a very peaceful, prayerful presence for the women there, not making them feel obliged to do anything, but just being there as a witness and just letting them know that they have other opportunities and they didn't have to feel like they had to make that decision. And so that was a real grace for me that became kind of like my passion as growing up as a youth. But going to college and everything after getting my GED, because I also had the grace of getting homeschooled, and I would say I went to public school for the first years of my life, but when I started homeschooling, I had more time to actually study my Catholic faith, and I started falling in love with the doctrines of the Catholic faith and wanting to learn more and more about it. So going there, I wanted to actually study theology and philosophy and go forward in university, but at the same time, keeping heart open wherever God may be asked me. And I continued discerning throughout, but every community I visited, there wasn't clear, because God knew that I needed signs to know where He was calling me to and to be sure. And so He took me at my own pace. While I was discerning, I also went and got a job and started working and saving up money to be able to go to World Youth Day in 2011 called Benedetta. And I offered all of that pilgrimage. It was like a month-long pilgrimage, just asking for the grace of light for my vocation and discernment and God's will in my life to know what He was asking me to do. And I would say that was a very grace-filled pilgrimage because I experienced many innovations and inconveniences, small ones, but anyway, it was a great growing experience, I would say, because it was all done on foot. And we just slept wherever we found ourselves in the convents and old schools and everything. And it was a great experience. And also, Pope Benedict's example for me was really great because we were in the middle of this rainstorm and he decided to just stay there with us. He could have come back, but he just wanted to be with us and we while we were there. And that really touched me, and also his example, like his fidelity to the church and everything. And but yeah, in the meantime, there were some Franciscan friars in Texas where I was living, and their presence was really awesome for me in my discernment as well. Not being sisters, obviously I couldn't enter with them, but their presence with the youth was really awesome because they would have like 2,000 retreats and like Eucharistic adoration with some praise and worship. They're kind of charismatic as well. But I knew that they had some sisters as well, so I went to discern with them, and it was a great experience. But in the long run, I came to this kind of pause in my discernment because I felt like all the doors were being closed and like I didn't know where God was calling me because all the time I did have this desire to become a sister, but also the beauty of marriage and family life was really strong in my heart as well. And so it was a long process of discerning between like what God was calling me to become. And the thing that really helped me was like discovering that He had created me for Himself, and that if I gave my life to Him, I would have more children than I could have ever had in a marriage. And so both vocations, I say, are beautiful because they're both created by God. But just the discernment process helped me come to that discernment. And I was actually involved in a missionary program in Denver, Colorado. With Christ in the City, it was called, and it was like this youth program to be able to do hands-on work with the poor and women in crisis pregnancy. So I got to spend some time actually living in a community, moving out of house and living in a community with other youth and like a life of prayer and praise and also ministry with people who were in need. And that was like a really great growing experience, and it was during those months there that I was really asking God to enlighten me if He wanted me to go to the university or religious life or whatever, because I had no idea. And I was actually applying to Benedictine college, and I got the grace to visit the campus and everything, and I was just enjoying the time there and meeting the students and also the teachers and everything, and just really discerning through the opportunity to be able to study theology and everything. And while I was there, there was Jesus in Eucharistic adoration, and it was just really like, while I was there, it was a great experience, but He was just like increasing the desire for religious life the whole time. So I was like, okay, I better look into this. What is He trying to say to me? Because I'm here at the university, but He's giving me a desire for something different. So it was also during this time that some sisters had come in town where my parents were living at that time, and they had done like their vocations session and everything, and they had actually spoken with my mom saying, well, if so-and-so, like if I want to come again for a second visit, I'm more than welcome to come. And I had actually visited them a little over a year before that. And it was, yeah, like I said, a great experience, but I wasn't sure where God was talking or anything, but this information just seemed to be coming right at that point, that meeting point I was speaking. And so I was like, okay, I better listen this time. So I actually made a visit out there the second time for the Easter training. So Holy Thursday, and I left at the college. This was a girl, visiting, and the peace that I had there was so overwhelming, and there was a great sign for me that God gave me. There was a statue of St. Therese there, and it's funny, but I had felt like St. Therese had been following me the whole time, and it was just like a confirmation for me, like God wanted me to enter there. And so I spoke with the Mother Superior that Easter Monday, and I asked for permission to enter, and she gave me some dates to choose, and we set up on a date after that, and all the while, I was like, how do I, because I was signed on with this program in presidency, and it was going to last for a few more months before the contract had ended, and so I was also asking for, to know how to, respond promptly to God's call, but at the same time, not the others in other hands. So I was really discerning, and I felt like I needed to respond as soon as possible. And so I did return to Colorado, and I read the prayer and all the people know and everything. I really felt like I was calling, and I needed to respond as soon as possible. And they were really gracious and actually very happy for me, and I actually owe it to them that I felt ready to answer God's call finally, because taking that step, detaching myself from my family and from the house and everything that was familiar to me was a great experience, and it really prepared me to be able to respond to God's call. And so I was grateful to them as well, and I went back home to be with my family a little bit because my sister was expecting her first child, and so I wanted to be there for that. And so I got the grace to be able to be there, and also entered the convent a few days after that. And I studied for about 2 years here in the United States as an aspirant and then as a apostolate, and then these are all the phases of the formation of the sister, because you don't become a sister all at once like St. Clare did in her day, because the church has been very wise to add many phases of formation before you make such a big decision. So I actually was sent to Italy to continue with the formation as a novice, so they had their novitiate only in Italy. And so I was sent to Italy, and little by little I learned Italian, but it took a long time to learn that. But thanks to God and the charity of the sisters, they really helped me to start understanding the language and also being able to speak it. And so I made my first vows, and after a few years I also made my final vows there. And recently some of the sisters were inspired to focus their cares and more on the youth. And so I was always with Franciscan Marian Order, but recently we felt more called to follow the Saintarianism of St. Francis of Assisi and St. Maximilian Maria Kolbe, but expressing itself in the ministry of the youth. And so I'm a member of the Franciscan Missionaries of Mary Immaculate, and we are located in Brescia, Italy. We are currently only 18 members. We were founded only a little over a year ago, but we were welcomed by the Bishop of Brescia very warmly into his diocese, and that was an awesome grace. And we also live in an antique Franciscan convent that dates back to 1000, the year 1000. But little by little it has been added on to. So there are more modern structures to it, but it's a very rich history there, and we feel it like a great grace to be able to be there. And the following to follow St. Francis more closely, like the rule of St. Francis, and then following also the spirituality of St. Maximilian and Maria Kolbe. That he took all of what St. Francis had taught, but he brought it to the 20th century, and the biggest thing about his teaching is using the latest means of technology to reach as many amount of people as you can with God's Word and with the devotion to Our Lady. And his devotion to Our Lady was exceptional. He is known for his formula consecration to Our Lady, and he actually took that from St. Louis de Montfort's consecration, but he took it to a deeper level of making himself her instrument in her hands so that he could spread the message of Jesus to everyone that Our Lady sent him to. So he actually was in the concentration camp during the Second World War when a fellow prisoner of war was condemned to die in the hunger bunker, it was called, because 10 men were chosen to take the place of one man that had escaped the prison camp, and they were condemned to die by starvation. And he was not actually of the men chosen, but one of the men that were chosen started crying out, "I'm a father of a family, what will my children do?" And he was crying, and St. Maximilian stepped forward, and just by stepping forward, he was risking his life, because you would never do that in the sight of a German guard there. But he stood forward, and the German guard questioned him, like, "What are you doing?" And then he said, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm a Catholic priest." So he was just asking for it by then, because he knew that other than by hating the Jews, the Germans also hated Catholics. So he was a Catholic priest, and he explained that he wanted to take the place of this father of a family. And so the German guard actually took him on his word and gave the life back to the young father, and St. Maximilian went to the dead father. But not only was his act for this young father, but also for all those who were condemned to die in that hunger bunker, because the motive of many of the Germans was to make the people lose their hope before dying. So they would take away everything from them, and they would often die in desperation. But St. Maximilian's presence there had the guards started hearing these songs, them singing songs to Our Lady as to Jesus, and also praying with a soft voice in the rosary. And St. Maximilian gave them the last sacraments as they were dying, and he gave them hope for heaven, that there was, this life was not all there was, but that they had a hope for a better life. And he is actually one of the 4 surviving prisoners there after 2 weeks without food or water, and he actually did not die of hunger at the last, because the German guards came. They needed room for more prisoners to enter in, and so they gave him an injection of poison, and he died from that. But always with his gaze towards heaven. And many think that he saw Our Lady because he was always aware of her presence and her little light. His example and his writings are a great part of our spirituality. And also with the youth, working with youth, we do many summer camps throughout the year to different age groups, from 5 to 7, from 7 to 14, and then from 14 to 30. And camps for the younger ones are usually more games and more excitement and fun and dancing and lessons with song. And then the ones for the older ones are for more with prayer and discernment and retreat time for the girls. So we consider it a great blessing, like what God has done in our lives as a community. We are still very young, so we need to grow before we can found other communities. But we just experience much support from everyone. we're very grateful for what God has done in our lives, but I'm not sure if anyone has any questions.
Do you know if your formation will be coming here or future?
We've actually received many invitations to come here, and I talked about it with my superiors in Italy, and they are more than happy to come out here. Like I said, we are a young community, so we have only 6 professed sisters right now. The others are still in formation, and so we would need at least a year before we could actually start coming out as a community, like probably other communities. But we're more than happy to come out and do more visits to the parishes in this area because we see that it's like our ladies planting seeds, and we have received such a warm welcome and interest for the presence of sisters here in North Arkansas because it's not something that you see often. So, yeah.
I'm going to walk down the middle aisle and pick up the question sheets. If y'all want to bring them to the middle, I'll walk down the middle aisle. I can go down.
Another thing about our spirituality is we have 4 patron saints, St. Francis, St. Clare, St. Maximilian Foley, and St. Peter. So we also have them like as vocation as well. I remember that it was I think from I think it was from 1998 around 2006.
Okay. Do you want me to just like read them off? Okay, let's try that. Okay. So you're from California originally?
Yes.
Why did you move to Arkansas?
I moved to Arkansas because my dad had a work opportunity here, and so we moved with him for his work.
Okay. What do you like best about being a sister?
I've often thought about this question because there are many things about being a sister, but I've always just wanted being in the same house as Jesus as the most beautiful thing. Like being in the convent, you can visit him any time of the day or night, and he's there. That's a really great reason.
That's excellent. And I have to lie, because it actually says, what is the best thing about being a nun? So maybe you can tell us, what's the difference between a sister and a nun?
Yeah.
That might be helpful.
Okay, yeah. So a nun is known as a person who consecrates herself to God, taking the 3 vows, but she lives a life completely consecrated to God in the sense of a full life of prayer. So, for example, the Carmelites, Benedictines, they tend to be totally cloistered, where you only can see them through a grate or talk to them by phone or email. Because they have that rule of seclusion from the world. And it's not a negative thing, it's actually a very positive thing because many saints have said throughout the centuries that it's through the prayers of cloistering ones in particular that the world is being upheld. And far from forgetting about the world going in, they actually dedicate their lives for the life of the world. So they are a very powerful prayer force for the world. Instead, the sister is one who consecrates her life to God with the 3 vows, but she lives a life of prayer and also activity like apostolate. So she can be working at school or working in hospital or working with the poor as examples.
Excellent. Excellent. Was it scary going on a pilgrimage and not knowing where you were going to sleep? That's a good one.
Well, I actually got involved with this pilgrimage from word of mouth. Like I heard about this Mexican group. I was going from a parish where I was living, so I wasn't even with my parish group. But it was actually connected with the Institute of the Incarnate Word and the Servants of the Lord. So it's a male and female religious order, and they are known for their awesome doctrine and priests and sisters alike, and so I trusted them that they had programmed the pilgrimage very well. It was a very long pilgrimage. It was about over a month, but they knew the places as well where we were going. So yeah, it was a great thing.
Can you marry as a sister?
No, because I'm already married. When you become a sister, you marry Jesus, and it's more real than anything. It's not like a made-up thing, but you do take vows when you make your first promises to God, and like I said, it's a process leading up to the confessional vows. So you take your first vows first, and then every 3 years, up to 6 years, you can renew those vows. And the church allows for that discernment, so that you're not going into this choice without having been well prepared and discerning all the opportunities. But with your final vows, you actually give yourself to God, and Jesus gives himself to you as his vows. So you actually take part in his spiritual fatherhood, in the sense of being a spiritual mother of souls.
Why do you wear that?
So we wear a habit, a religious habit. As sisters, we wear an external sign of our internal consecration to God. And so it helps us remember who we are and why we are doing the things that we're doing. And it also is a sacramental because it has been blessed by the church, and wearing it is an instrument of grace for us and for others as well, because St. Francis actually invited one of his friars to come and preach with him. And so they went around in the town and walking along the whole town, and then they returned, and the friar was like, well, what did we just do? Because we didn't say anything. And St. Francis said, we just said a lot, because just by the habit, people automatically think of something, even if they're atheists, they think of something else than this world, something that is pointing to heaven. And so the habit is like an external sign also of the heavenly reality to which we are all called. Like all of us are called to be consecrated to God in our baptism. And our consecration is a fuller expression of that. But our particular habit has two colors, and it's the blue. I don't know if anyone wants to guess what the blue is for.
Does anybody want to guess? Show of hands. What's the blue color for? Anyone?
Yeah, the Virgin Mary. Okay.
What does it mean?
It's in water.
Oh. Yeah, well, yes, water is a symbol of baptism, but we actually wear blue for Our Lady, and the white is actually a symbol of purity. But both of the colors together were actually inspired by Our Lady of Lord, the image of Our Lady of Lord, and it's an expression of our Marian consecration to Our Lady, because other than taking the 3 vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, we also take a 4th vow of consecration to Our Lady, and that's actually our first vow, the Marian vow we call it.
Excellent. This is a similar question. Do you have to wear your veil all the time?
Yes, it's a very good question, because sometimes even though my mother religious orders, they take off their habit, they wear normal clothes. But with our particular community, we feel called to wear a habit at all times, even the veil. So we actually have a night habit, because that was us another time. So that wherever we are and whatever we're doing, we are clothed with the habit of St. Francis, and there's a promise connected with the habit, a similar one to that of the scapular, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, that whoever dies wearing a habit, that's another sign of grace before God. And so we don't want to be found with our habit, because it's also like wearing our wedding gown every day.
What do you like to do in your free time? I'm sure you have a ton of free time.
Yeah. Well, we don't actually have free time at the convent, but every moment of our day is scheduled scheduled in the sense of we live a very rhythmic life, like a certain hour of prayer and then the mass and then the apostolate or work, whatever we are assigned to do. But we do have recreation often, and that's a moment in which the community gets together and we just have fun together. So we do have that as well. And some of the sisters were great sports players before entering, so we get pretty fired up with it.
Excellent. Excellent. Oh, these are some heavy hitters. What is your favorite food?
Okay, I would have to say, I guess there's a favorite fruit connected with every country, but the United States, it would be chicken fried rice.
What about Italy?
Italy, it would be ravioli.
Ravioli. What is your favorite color?
My favorite color is probably this color of blue. It's probably this one.
What things do you like to do?
I love going to adoration because, like from when I was young, being there in Jesus' presence is like nothing else that I can compare it to, because whereas He is always present with us through His Word, through other people, through whatever grace that we might receive during the day, He's present like nothing else in the universe, because He's present there physically with His body and His blood, and even if you can't perceive it with your senses at the first meeting, He will give you the grace if you just give yourself in that moment, just being in His presence, basically, and letting Him speak to your heart. He will speak to you. So, yeah.
Amen. Amen. How many years did you go to this church?
I was trying to calculate the time. It was about 8 years, I think.
8 years?
Yeah.
What is the worst part about being a sister? That's a tough one.
I guess, I think oftentimes even the saints have said that the greatest penance is community life. And so living in a community with other people from all different cultures and character traits and everything, it can be pressing at times, but it's actually for that reason that it helps you grow. And we're like a big family, so if you can imagine like a family of 18, that's how we are. And so we get many opportunities to practice patience with each other, and the generosity is really important. I think because oftentimes we get these ideas in our head like, oh, I would really love to be a missionary in Africa or in India, like Mother Teresa, and like help the poor off the streets and everything. But oftentimes Mother Teresa would often say like, the poor in our lives are those nearest to us, the ones in our own family. And so that's a message that we've been sharing often, is that first we need to be well-grounded as a community ourselves, and then we will be able to go out and found other communities among the people that are in need. So oftentimes it's the people in our family that are most in need, and oftentimes we aren't attentive to them.
This is similar. Do you have a sister in your community who's your best friend?
Consecrating ourselves to Jesus, the great thing about His love is that we get to love everyone in Him. So the love that we might have for people on a natural level, like a sympathy or empathy, a dislike or like, is all supernaturalized in Jesus. So, like, if we put Him first, He helps us love others in a real way, in an authentic way. And so, not just for this person gives me like pleasure whenever I'm with them, or I have a great time with them. And these are all points that exist in religious life. Like, we do have good times together, and we have relationships with each other as sisters. I would say, like, one sister had said, Jesus gives us a particular relationship with every sister in the community. So we can't like have one favorite over the others, because they are all my sisters, and so I love them all. in
Oh, this one's close to my heart. What memories do you have of Father Hart?
Oh my gosh. When I first met Father Ben, I didn't know he was Father Hart's nephew, but just coming back here for the first 2 days, I was like, oh my gosh, all the memories of Father Hart were coming to my mind, and I just really wanted to say hi to him. But whenever someone told me that Father Ben was Father Hart's nephew, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like seeing him and being able to say hi. But no, I can't narrow it down to one example of Father Hart because I just remember as I was so little, I didn't have like a particular conversation with him or spiritual direction or even the first sacraments. The first sacraments were given me by his uncle.
Kordsmeyer, yes.
Kordsmeyer, yeah. And so I didn't have like a particular instance with Father Hart, but the more I thought about it and the more I grew in my relationship with Jesus and everything, I'm constantly like remembering how much of a presence he was in our life as a priest, and in my family in particular, he helped my parents out a lot in their marriage, and my brother and sister as well, my older brother and sister, and but just like his presence as a priest itself spoke volumes, I think, and you only recognize it when he's gone, kind of thing. Yeah, and he was just so giving and so selfless, and he just gave himself to others, and he was very joyful and a great witness to the visa, I think, as well. And so I'm really grateful for him, and he was happy for me because he knew that I was thinking about becoming a sister. So I really feel a bond with him even more now than before.
Thank you so much, sister. I think we've got, like 20 minutes left, is that right? Are there any other questions? You can just raise your hand. Oh, wow, okay. Go for it, sister. Yeah. Sure, that's fine, yeah.
Is Father Ben your cousin?
Let me apologize for that question right now. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. No, he's not my cousin, but spiritually.
Spiritually, that's right.
What are your responsibilities?
My responsibilities? Yeah, that's a good question. Because as sisters, we are all assigned work. So it's really important as well, this aspect, because oftentimes we think of like sisters working in the hospitals and doing work for the poor, and that's great and everything, and that's what they do. But oftentimes it's just the day's work that needs to get done, and that's God's will, like washing the dishes or cooking lunch, just the basic primary things. And so I've actually been assigned to the garden. I did not know anything about doing gardens. So I was just like asking, God for help, and also we have a great neighbor who's very experienced in gardening. So he actually teaches us how to garden and what to do, because we have a vegetable garden that's very large. And so I was taking care of that, and also we have tons of animals where we are. We have 2 dogs, 2 cats, 19 chickens, and 2 goats. So I would be taking care of the animals as well, which was a great thing. Yeah.
Have you ever liked to cuddle with me and my sister knowing here?
Well, I've always liked guys from when I was young, and like I said, the call to marriage was really attractive to me because I've always liked guys, and also the idea of having a family was a strong desire in my heart. And so after becoming a sister, it's like I said, marrying Jesus, he becomes your spouse, and so through him you get to love others with his love. And so I'm not limited to loving just one man, but every man that lives on this earth, but with the love of Jesus, and with the desire to save him, so to save his soul. So in this way, I can love everyone in God and through God. And so, yeah, becoming a sister, I realized that I was not limiting my love, but actually expanding it so that God could love through me. And I could never have done that in another way. But
favorite animal?
That's a good question. Okay, it might sound funny, but I love hamsters. I grew up playing with frogs and lizards, and I had 2 hamsters, and the first one was named Shibo. He was a teddy bear hamster, so he had long hair. And then the second hamster after him was Frodo, and he was a dog hamster, named after the character in Lord of the Rings. So that was my brother's idea. But I just love hamsters, and for me now, it's just like, it's like showing God's goodness and his sense of humor.
Do you have a lot of sisters?
Yes, do you mean blood sisters?
No, I mean
I live in a community of 18, and also I have 17 sisters. Yes, and the youngest ones have 17 years. They are 17 years old, and the oldest is 34.
Who's your mom?
My mom is Nancy Northeast. she was a parishioner many years ago here. Okay, do you have any friends that don't go to church? This is a really good question because growing up here in Arkansas, it's really hard sometimes to find Catholic friends, and it might be different for you guys, but growing up, all of my friends were Protestants except for one, and I just grew up like defending my faith because my friends would share the things that they heard from their churches, and then I would share the things that I heard from mine. And but we were always in like an awesome, like a good relationship as friends, and so we could talk about our differences about our faith, but in a friendly way. So that never ended badly. Yeah, I guess I would say those friends that don't go to church, but anyway, they did go to their Protestant churches growing up. So what do you do during the day? So we actually get up early in the morning, and we start the day with about 3 hours of prayer and all, including meditation, morning prayer, and the Holy Mass. And then after that, we have breakfast, and then we have whatever work we're assigned to do, or pasta. We also make rosaries and string miraculous medals to distribute to the people around us. And then around 9 to 10 or 9 to 11, depending on what stage of formation you're in, we have a period of study and classes for whoever's coming in the area to receive formation. And then after that, we have work until lunchtime, but with midday prayer in between. And then we have a rest in the middle of the day if it's practical. And then after that, we do evening prayer with the Holy Hour, with the Eucharistic Adoration. That would be the Holy Rosary. We do pray rosaries throughout the day, so even while we're working in the kitchen, for example, one sister will be guiding the rosary and the others will be responding. And then we have work, and then dinner, and then work or prayer, depending on the needs of the moment. Who do you know the most in your community? This is a really interesting question. I would have to say my Mother Superior I know the most. Not because I've known her the longest, but because from the beginning I came to Italy. She's actually from Australia, so she would help me with learning Italian from an English point of view. And she just always never shied away from correcting me and like letting me know what I need to work on, and also just as like an older sister then, and then now that she's my Mother Superior, I just consider it a great grace because she loves me so well that she helps me grow every day, and I know that her love for God is like real, because she's really a self-giving person, and she's put everything on the line in order to save our vocations. So I'm really grateful to her and to her example, and that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her and the other mother of the community that is the mother of the formation. So I'm really grateful to them, because I know I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. So yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
Is it good?
I think we've got like maybe time for one or two more. I'm sorry we didn't get to everybody, but Julie, do you have a question?
I'd like to know what your favorite Marian hymn is.
Ooh, good question.
I guess the one in English would be Sing of Mary, Pure and Lowly. And then the one universal would be Magnificat. My soul proclaims your
All right, one more, sister. You get to pick. I don't know.
It's pretty hard. I think she has her hand up first.
You do A.
That's an awesome question, because it ties into our Franciscan charism, because many religious orders follow a certain charism, a certain founder, and our founder is St. Francis, so he is known for his life of radical poverty, and it seems to be a contradiction to what society says, like about eliminating poverty and like misery and everything. And but St. Francis's view of poverty has always been the means which Jesus himself chose when he came to be on earth for us. And Jesus lived a poor life, even though he could have been rich himself, but he prefers to be poor so that we may be rich. And so St. Francis focused on that and following Jesus most closely in his life of poverty. And it's not the kind of poverty that is misery, but it's the kind of poverty that you choose not to own anything freely, like with your own will. So it's not a situation that you found yourself in, or that you want to rise from, but it's actually a free choice that you have made in order to imitate Jesus in a very practical way. And it's also letting you be released from many worries and distractions that might come with money and everything. And so we do work every day, but we work for free.
Thank you so much, sis. Let's give her a round of applause. Lead us in a prayer to say goodnight. Thank you so much.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. We thank you, Lord, for all of us here present tonight, and for the witness that you have given to us tonight. And thank you for speaking tonight through me, and I pray that it may bring forth fruits pleasing to you, and that you would awaken in the hearts of the listeners a greater desire to serve you in whatever vocation that you may be calling them. In Jesus' name, and through the Immaculate Heart of Mary, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.